right, our next panel is powered by our friends at Deloitte once again, and it is titled Sponsorships in Sports, Innovation, and Creativity. This half-hour conversation will be led by Amit Harel, Partner Services to MNC's co-leader at Deloitte Catalyst Tel Aviv.
Hello.
Thanks for joining us, Amit.
Yes, Amit Harel. Yeah, I'm not Spanish yet, working on it. So hi, Josh. Good evening, Tel Aviv. Good afternoon, the East Coast. Good around noon in the West Coast. So welcome, everyone. Really excited to be here. We're going to focus today on how to connect innovation to sponsorships, but also creativity. And with that, I would like to have our panelists join us. So I don't see him right here. Josh, if you can just help me getting them inside.
Yes, no problem. So here we go. We got everybody with us here. The head of global sponsorship at Coca-Cola, Ricardo Fort. Great to have you with us, Ricardo. And for the e-gamers and esports fans, this one's going to be great. The director of sponsorships at Twitch, Chad DeLuca. It's great to have Chad with us as well. And we also get some NHL exposure. Please welcome the vice president corporate partnerships with the Florida Panthers Hockey Club, Katerina Perez.
Excellent. So hi, everyone. Welcome. So we have a packed agenda ahead of us. And I thought, as always, let's start from the beginning. So we'll do a quick round of introductions and kind of walk into the topic of today, which is really, really exciting. And unfortunately, we only have 30 minutes for that. So just for everyone, again, my name is Amit Harel. I'm a partner with Deloitte in Israel. Leader of a platform that we've created called Deloitte Catalyst that connects between our global clients in the most relevant ecosystem, sits in Israel, the US, Germany, India, and a few other countries. One of the areas that we cover very closely is, of course, everything around sports technologies and innovation in general. And I'm excited to be here today and host our great panelists with us. And we'll start, again, as I mentioned, with a quick introduction, starting with you, Katerina. If you can introduce yourself to the audience, your role, and I'll twist it a bit, your passion about innovation. So Katerina, please.
Hi, everyone. My name is Katerina Perez, and I am the Vice President of Corporate Partnerships for the Florida Panthers Hockey Club. This would be we'd be knee deep in the second season of my tenure with the team if it were not for the pandemic. So this has been quite an interesting start on the team side for me. Before joining, I spent 15 years on the broadcast side, working with companies like iHeartMedia and Entercom, working in various cities with the broadcast partners, coordinating media, digital, experiential campaigns. Here for the Panthers, I oversee the corporate partnerships department as well as the activation department. So in charge of driving revenue, new business, and renewal across all of our largest assets. That it's everything from the name on our building with BB&T Center to our all-inclusive luxury clubs to the in-ice logos and dashboards on the ice. With regard to innovation, it's my thought that if you're standing still, you're falling behind. So every single day we have to challenge ourselves to get out of our own perceived bubble of what we think. We're probably thinking we're being innovative when really if we challenge ourselves, we're probably not even being close. So if every day we're continually challenging ourselves like that, then we'll always be looking at what's next.
Yeah, and maybe starting with the best innovation, which is bringing ice to Florida, which is always an interesting experience. Ricardo, you're next.
Hi, everyone. Ricardo Fort. I manage the global sports and entertainment partnerships for the Coca-Cola Company based here in Atlanta, in Georgia. And we deal mostly with this global events and helping all the countries around the world to promote sports and entertainment through the company brands. For me, the innovation manifests itself in many different things, the way we communicate, the way we design partnerships, and sometimes the way we create partnerships to sponsor events together. So from contracts to the execution of the events, there are opportunities for showing a different way of doing this in everything you do. And we will talk a little bit about some of the examples during the chat today. Pleased to be with you all.
Thank you, Ricardo. And last but not least, Chad.
Hi, Chad DeLuca, Director of Twitch Properties over here at Twitch. Our group is in charge of both first and third-party properties at Twitch. So first-party properties are Twitch Rivals, which is our entertainment-based competitive gaming. I guess is the best way to describe it. It's like WWE meets NBA All-Star Celebrity Game. We also have TwitchCon and some other first-party properties. And then we work with esports organizations like Team Liquid. We work with different events like PAX or EVO. And then we're also working with sports organizations like the NWHL, the National Women's Soccer League, and the NBA G League, as well as some others. So a mix of sports, entertainment, gaming, music. We have it all. And I'm excited to talk about this. I think from a technology and innovation standpoint, I think that we've been having a lot of brands come to us when it comes to that, and so we've been able to create some really cool things this year. In an unfortunate year, it's led to a lot of innovation. Probably pushed us to innovate 10x what we were planning on this year. Things that we're probably planning on having within the next few years were expedited. So just excited to share and talk with you all today.
Amazing. And let's start with that. It's we can speak about the elephant in the room, but this time the elephant is basically in the size of a virus. So much has been said about the effects of the crisis on the world of sports. We in Deloitte, we do a lot of surveys among clubs and fans, and there's a real impact there on various domains. But when we speak about sponsorship, and this is a question for all, how did the crisis force you to change course when it comes to how you're managing sports sponsorship and how you think about them? And maybe Katerina, starting with you.
Well, obviously, I think you could go to the immediate of having to change the fact that the straight logistics of either not having fans in a building, not playing. So there's some of those immediates of having to obviously move to digital, move to social. Those are some of the immediate ones. But sort of on my end of how we manage them internally and externally from a sort of a leadership point of view was really taking a step back with all of our departments across the board, and it being, how do we as a complete organization wrap our arms around our sponsors to make sure we're still delivering for them? So we would work with our business analytics, we would work with our broadcast team, our social team, our community involvement team. So while we may have not been able to execute for a partner on the ice or on TV while there was a pause, we were able to deliver for them in the community by, providing meals for first responders and partnering locally and delivering them for them that way. Like, for instance, one of the things we did is we were one of the first NHL teams to have a virtual run. We did our territory trot raising money for first responders, and we did that very early in the virus. So we were able to do that. For us, really, too, it's been wrapping our arms. We've had certain things we wanted to do, and then this sort of spearheaded us into doing them much faster. Things like cashless, like contactless purchasing. That's something that we were moving towards, and obviously this now is an immediate. I think on the benefit of that, though, it's able to take that technology and how do we integrate it to use the data better for our partners. And I think too, just the cadence and content of our communication with our fans and our partners, really kind of over communicating, even in an environment where we might not have necessarily had all the answers or the visibility to when we'd start playing or what the season would look like, but really involving our partners in what decisions and ideas can we put together to execute that make sense for you based on what you're trying to accomplish.
Interesting. And I think I'll touch that a bit later with a follow-up question. But before that, Ricardo, going to you, the Coca-Cola Company, always kind of the signal for innovation and sponsorship and sport in general. What changes did you have to go through in this pandemic era?
Well, unlike Katerina, we are not in the sports business, right? We are in the beverage business. So we had a few other things that we have to do, and sports are a platform for us to deliver value and to tell stories to our consumers and our customers. So in our case, we had to pivot from a event-based promotional calendar to a content-based promotional calendar. So working with our partners to make sure that we continue to get value from the partnerships in the form of content. Some of them were more prepared than others to do it, but in general, I think that the industry, the right holders, the teams and the leagues, they moved pretty fast in order to adjust and to start providing us with video content, photography, and other forms of storytelling that allow us to continue to do what we had to do in a world where the events were not happening. So I guess that was the major change, in addition to being forced to replan or stop and plan again everything we were doing for the events that were postponed for next year, like the Olympic Games in Japan. But these are the major shifts for the year.
Yeah, it's an interesting point. Just grabbing on that and Katerina or just a moment ago, and Chad, I'll kind of take that question with you. We know that diamonds are created basically in a pressure situation, right? So, kind of top of your mind, is there anything that you've done during this time in 2020 that if I would take you a year back, you'd say, oh, you would never do that, or you wouldn't never dream about doing something like that?
What I think is interesting about our industry is we are inherently and naturally virtual. And I think that the game and esports industry was starting to be more physical. And so I think the industry, I guess, more so felt that if there was an expansion, in person, that validated the expansion of gaming and esports. But what happened because of the pandemic was that virtual was leaned into. And so, unfortunately, we weren't able to have our annual event, TwitchCon, which is where a lot of our community comes together to celebrate, the community that is Twitch, with our creators, with brands, with everybody that's interested in Twitch. And one thing that was really cool in terms of innovation was, we leaned into inspiration from what the NBA was doing to bring in their fans from kind of that virtual courtside fan wall that they created. And with our partners, Verizon and AD&D, we created an extended reality virtual arena for our Twitch Rivals competition during GlitchCon, which was our virtual pivot from TwitchCon. And so it was really interesting because we created the Verizon 5G Super Suite, which was allowing Verizon customers to actually live stream into the live broadcast of Twitch Rivals competitions and being able to give their customers the chance to actually appear on screen during the live competition. So again, I think that, previously we were leaning into how can we have people in person and create interactive experiences in person, but I think we leaned into what we inherently do really well and our great technology partners that we worked with in order to create something that was really, really impressive. And our partners were really proud to innovate with us that way in a very truncated amount of time, mind you. So it was certainly something that came together pretty fast, and really proud of our teams for being able to execute that.
Amazing. And again, who knows what will happen in the year, and hopefully by next year we will be all sitting together in a room, maybe still with masks, but vaccinated. So I'm gonna leave our COVID topic kind of a bit behind and go into the heart of the business. I want to do kind of a quick lightning round between all of our speakers, and if you can share about how you currently measure ROI and benchmarking sports sponsorship, because at the end of the day, there is a big question about exposure, right? There is a question about the different business models. So maybe starting with you, Ricardo, when you need to plan your year and then when you do year end, you think about the ROI and benchmarks. What metrics do you use?
Well, there are a couple of them, and we have tools that we developed internally, given the breadth of the data that we have for decades of sponsorship in events. So that allowed us to develop a good predictive tools for before signing contracts and after activating, promoting events. We can measure on a country by country basis the impact that each of the events have had, not only in our volume performance, the number of units of bottles and cans that we sell, but also on the revenues and the profit. So we know that if a given country does a few things when they are promoting a FIFA World Cup or the Olympic Games, for example, we can expect a certain percentual growth for the business in that country, and that gives us great confidence to continue to invest, to continue to promote. But one of the things that we recently started doing was to use a tool that we also developed to predict how much a deal is worth for us, and based on that we have made a lot of better decisions when signing and sometimes not signing deals because we didn't feel like that was the right thing for us. So ROI is at the core of everything we do in sponsorships, and we really push everyone that works with sponsorships at Coke to make sure that they have not only the long-term brand building, equity building in mind, but also the short-term business growth impact we can get when we sign one of these partnerships.
Katerina?
Well, I think that it also there's the data element, and then there's the human element. And I think a lot of that is setting the expectations very clearly from the beginning of the partnership. So we have a pretty thorough process where we kind of mainline both what that ROI looks like from a data perspective. We work with Nielsen on TV impressions, we work with Zoom on digital and social impressions. So we have obviously tools to trace and track what that delivery is, obviously, as well as how many Cokes are we selling every single given year, and managing how often our partners want to hear that too. I think the timing of that is important too. And the human element, a big part of what we do on the sponsorship side here is working in the community and working with our foundation. And sometimes that's not just that's a quality component, not necessarily a quantity component. So we really kind of lay the baseline for, what organizations does your company want to be tied to, and what kind of impact do they want to make on the community? And sometimes it's not an impression delivery or a engagement delivery. It's simply we want to make sure we're giving 100 needy families Christmas trees and making that impact locally. So so it's both that human element as well.
Excellent. Chad, I want to connect the ROI question that I would like you to address to another kind of a related topic. Again, the rise of online gaming is not something new, but we do see spikes in the last 9 months. When you're looking into the ROI, and especially in this environment, how do you measure that in a way that, the volume is different? So how do you compare it to nothing that you've seen before? Using new metrics? What's your solution?
Yeah, I think for us, one of the simplest metrics that cause a lot of brands to start to reach out to us, whether they've been working with us already or whether they were kind of on the sidelines, was just hours watched, just the pure amount of content that people were consuming. And I think that was just kind of getting the conversation started. It shows the trends, it shows where things are going. But I think in terms of measuring the success of our partnerships with our partners, we lean into a couple different areas. We work with Kantar Millward Brown to do brand lift studies. So if you're looking at brand sentiment or brand lift, purchase consideration, metrics like that, we work with our partners like that. MVP Index has helped us with on-screen exposure and looking at, how much is that worth? We've worked with Octagon to value, IP of our properties and be able to determine, what is that worth and how do we go to market with a fully combined package that involves a bunch of different elements. And then we actually have our Twitch Research Power Group, which is our internal research panel that has about 70,000 Twitch users that we survey, and we're able to get real insight instantly from them to be able to poll them about how they felt about a certain brand in their campaign, to did the messages resonate, did their brand mottos and key points, did they get through, do you associate the tagline? So there's a lot of different ways. Those are just a few, but a lot of different ways that we're measuring success for our partners aside from a pure impression standpoint.
Yeah. So moving from ROI in marketing and in sponsorship into more of the innovation creativity piece. So Katerina, a question for you. And we all spoke about, the death of TV screen, the death of the laptop screen, the death of whatever. But, as I'm looking at, my living room, I see just more and more screens. So with the rise of multi-screen as a concept, social media, and I have to say, frankly, shorter attention span from different, parts of society, it creates opportunities, but it also creates challenges. What's your view on this topic, and where do you think this reality will take innovation in the sponsorship world forward?
It's timely that Chad's on this as well, because one perfect example for our organization is it sort of forced us to really jump into the Twitch platform for our team. It's something we had been looking to get into, and I say this: you don't have to be perfect to get started. I think a lot of organizations feel that they have to have a massive following or just this thorough, deep strategy to get started. And we wanted to start and dip our toe into the arena just to make sure we were doing it right and learning our lessons. So this really gave us an opportunity to start that. And in the opportunity that it's going to present for us, we're not like a New York or a Boston, for instance, where, just a few engagements can spark an entire conversation. We really wanted to create that community feel with our fans that could get people talking and could get them sort of creating that community space of two-way interaction. So for us, that we were able to look at getting into next season, do we create a virtual watch party where people can communicate and interact? Do we create it now? It's now a new sponsorable element to what we do on Twitch. We have a partner, for instance, for our training camp, but our training camp that's now streamed on Twitch could potentially have a new one where that platform, the digital innovation, is important to them. Also partnering with our broadcast partners, that there could be an extension of our broadcast team, with two-way interaction on our Twitch handle. So for us, that was one of the opportunities, and then really just figuring out how there's sort of that digital extension to everything we do, that there's it's not just a social contest, but there's ways to engage people socially with the social the second stream, but then how we're using that information to follow up and communicate with our partners and our fans after.
Excellent. Ricardo, same question, and of course the Coca-Cola company is reinventing connectivity between multi-screens all the time, but where do you see that trend going from your perspective?
Well, from our perspective, I don't think a lot about the devices. I think about more of the quality of the content. So are we telling stories that people would like to consume? And of course, sports is a great way of doing this. Entertainment is a great way of doing this. So as long as you have good content, and you can design the message in a way that fits whatever people are consuming, I think you're going to be successful. So all these discussions of the duration of the message, and people are not consuming anything longer than X minutes or X seconds. I think in general this is true because the quality of content that we get online is it's poor in general. So whenever there's a good message, you stick around and you consume it all. So our goal is always to make sure that we have compelling stories about the brands using sports, using entertainment that will keep people connected. And if they're consuming that on a connected TV or on a phone or a tablet, that's less relevant for us. The other thing is just we have unlike my colleagues, we have physical products that are going into the market. So we have millions and millions of units that we are delivering to shops and retailers every day. We also look at that as a media opportunity. How can you use your packaging to tell stories that are on pack, or the pack is just a conduit for delivering connectivity and ideas for you to tell stories. So all of that is part of the delivery of the message. But as I said, the main focus is having great stories first.
Yeah, no, that's a great advice, I think, for all entrepreneurs listening about, the quality of the narrative, the quality of the story. I guess that you might be focusing more on the trigger, like why should I see this, view this, read this, because then the story is so meaningful. So Katerina, back to you. And we have about 4 minutes, and I want us to think about the way that we can give back to the audience. And we have a representative from different startups and VCs and different organizations. But when we think about the connectivity between franchise, an organization, a club, a corporate, with a startup, where do you think startups should focus on, and really in a way that they can make the impact that you care about?
Well, the impact that always resonates most with me is sometimes we tend to, I think this happens in every organization, operate in silos. This is an operational logistic technology or innovation, and this is more of a data or digital. This is more the HR piece. The things that we've engaged with recently on our team are the ones that have a tremendous amount of cross-department connectivity that can be used across the enterprise. So I'll reference again our new cashless, contactless transaction partner. First of all, they've done an exceptional job starting to onboard us. I would say 100%. Your technology can be fantastic, but if it's not a very clear, concise, how is this being used, how case studies of how it's being used elsewhere, how is it being used in other markets, how is it doing everything from an operational logistic point of view to implementation and onboarding, but how are you using the data to ultimately also drive revenue? So again, we've made some decisions here on various different platforms that the ones that allowed us to bring a variety of departments on board to use the data and innovation are the ones that we've really kind of leaned into. For us too, it's not just about creating more sponsorable assets, but just more and better, solid ones. And Coke is a great example too of one of our partners who now, with some of the innovation that we're going to have, we'll be able to give them better insights into, the demographics and the segments of our fans, and the consumption data and what they're doing with that. So, I'd say for us, it's definitely how the innovations can be used across an enterprise, and then definitely sort of the 100% customer, that us being the customer on the other side in terms of the customer service and engagement and onboarding.
Really insightful. So we have time for one last question, and I'm going to start with you, Chad. Twitch, such a great success story and a lot of lessons learned in the past. So let's assume now in the audience we have a lot of young entrepreneurs, or just looking for that seed funding. They have an idea. They're looking for the courage. What's the one advice from your perspective that you would like to share with them in order to hopefully help them make their journey more successful?
Yeah, I think it comes down to solving problems that companies have. I think at the core, if you're able to solve somebody's problem, help with things that keep them up at night, and make things easier for processes, then you're in a good position. I think, in terms of creativity, I think, leaning into different executions, putting Ricardo on the spot, and something that we do with Coca-Cola on Twitch, being able to both provide for a brand, but also for a community. And Coca-Cola does a great job of celebrating the community when people become partners on Twitch. And so we have great announcements that we work with our technology partners to be able to source who's becoming a partner and ways to make it really exciting for them, and to kind of flood the chat and reward them, and then be able to take that and make content. You're solving a problem for the community of being able to make this moment really impactful, but then also for a brand, you're able to create a really unique moment for them to own. And so I think that anytime you can do that, where you're solving a problem, but you're also creating value, that's the type of innovation people are looking for.
Excellent. Now passing it to you, Ricardo. If we can do it in 30 seconds, kind of the one advice you want to give startups who want to work with you.
Well, first of all, thanks to Katrina and Chad for the partnerships. We really appreciate working with both of your organizations, and I think our brands are special because of the work that we do together as well. For me, is now building on what Chad said. It's understanding if the problem that you're solving is meaningful for my business. If it is, we have great chance to work together. If it isn't, then maybe you should talk to somebody else. But we're always interested in working, partnering with startups, and finding solutions for problems that we have. So understanding our problems is critical for getting to a partnership with anyone.
Excellent. And Katerina?
Well, apparently there's some consistency, because mine would be find something broke and fix it.
So
Same thing.
yeah, so I think focusing on challenges, articulating your business value, less about the technology, and understanding the organization you work with. And I think it's a great way to segue to Josh again, who is smiling at us. So I will close with thank you all for the time we spent together today. It was really insightful. I'm sure it was really meaningful for our audience. So I would like to thank Katerina Perez, Chad DeLuca, Ricardo Fort for the time today. Back to you, Josh.
I mean, thank you. And thank you all again for a wonderful conversation on sponsorships in sports.